to the California Critic. Today's topic is why California is broke. Despite the rhetoric out there coming from our governor and other state officials telling us we're running this surplus of 20 billion some odd dollars, this information is completely false. It's not false in the sense that there was a surplus in the budget, because on the short term of things, that's how it appears that there is actually a surplus. However, when you look at long-term liabilities and the overall state deficit, we're looking at $1.5 trillion in the hole. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, wow, that's a big number, but what does that have to do with me? Well, let me explain this for a second. Some people believe that state spending is actually an asset to society. Unfortunately, it has its downsides. In my last video, I explained how this nation runs on an economic system called Keynesian economics. And Keynesian economics basically is set up in a way where government expenditure is looked at in a positive light. Now, we can go over several examples, not just within the United States, but around the world, where government debt has gotten societies into serious trouble because governments don't have to operate on a budget like a business does. If a budget were, if businesses are constrained by a budget, they can only spend so much, but they have to be bringing in revenues in order to remain sustainable. The problem with governments is governments just continue to spend, and the budgets keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, despite what tax revenues may be. Some years they may be down, some years they may be up. But overall, in the short and long term, government debt just keeps perpetuating itself until there's an economic downturn. That's when governments all of a sudden have to get their finances in order. You know, there were some very interesting things that happened in California during the 08-09 recession. They were cutting spending on fire departments, police departments, social aid, a whole bunch of state-ran programs that people were relying on were actually being diminished. That's the dangers of having government spending run rampant. The more people you get hooked on government spending or social welfare or whatever type of benefits the state is providing to individuals, well, when the economy decides to turn south, these people who are relying on this government aid of some sort, whatever that may be, are at huge risk of losing that, because the state is losing tax revenues at a far greater rate than what would normally be. The state's already losing money just by spending, out of control. We have the bullet train, the high-speed rail project in Bakersfield that has run this state almost $70 billion. We have California schools, our California public education systems are underfunded. The teachers just went on strike last year, citing problems such as not enough school supplies, not enough janitorial supplies, overcrowded classrooms. There is a plethora of issues going on in the state. We have some of the worst roads in the nation in California. Also, infrastructure, dams, water resources, things like that. We are not focusing on the things that matter. The state is spending money on our behalf on things that we're not really going to be, most of us are not going to be able to use. The high-speed rail project in Bakersfield is going to connect to Merced, apparently, is what the new plan is. But it's gone on for years. The budget on the bullet train has surpassed what the projected amount should be. This is money they're spending on your behalf. You're paying for it, and you're not even going to get a chance to use it. By the way, who is going to go to Bakersfield to enjoy a ride on the bullet train to Fresno or Merced? Who's going to do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. So California, being the world's fifth largest economy, right, also has more airports than many modern nations do. Trust me, getting around the state is not an issue. We've got freeways that are falling apart, but they're there if you want to use them. We have airports, we have trains. You can go by boat in this state if you want a scenic view along the coast. We have so many modes of transportation. This bullet train alone, which is going to be another video of mine in the future, is such a waste of money. It could be going towards something else. We have underfunded pension program. CalPERS is only 2/3 funded from the 08-09 recession, and they're claiming a surplus. This is the mentality we're dealing with here in this state. These people don't know how to handle finances. Let me get to this. ABC 10. I found a news article on ABC 10 News. Why, guy? Why does the California government claim surplus with a deficit? The answer was simply, it's the difference between what your checkbook looks like and balancing your long-term obligations, like a home mortgage. That makes no sense at all. Anyone with half a brain can figure this out. When you buy a home at a fixed price, it's at that price. Besides that, in most areas, when you buy a home, you have an asset that's accumulating equity. It's growing in value, not like debt. Debt is completely opposite. On one hand, you have an asset that's growing, and on the other hand, you have a liability that's growing. This is more money that's going to be owed in the future by not just you, but your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's children. This is a perpetual hole that we will continue to pay for as time goes on. A house is completely different. This is just ridiculous, but this is the mentality we're dealing with in this state from state officials and our governor, and it's really sad. It's really sad these people don't understand basic finance, basic economics. You know, Los Angeles has over 50,000 people living in the streets, and they're touting this $20 billion surplus as a celebratory moment. They're touting this as an achievement. Yay, look at all this money we got. Are you kidding me? While people are suffering on the streets, people are suffering from drugs, people are suffering from illnesses, people are suffering from death, people are dying on the streets, okay? That is how serious it's gotten here. I'm not even kidding. Look it up yourself. I'll post a link in the description. But this is just what we're dealing with, and it's completely asinine. And like I said, in the next economic downturn, this state's going to be in a lot of trouble. And now there are other states in the United States that are having pension issues and other infrastructure problems, but not quite as severe as what California is looking at. California runs the largest public pension plan, CalPERS, in the United States, and it's not looking good. I know people who are on CalPERS. I have family who's on CalPERS, and if we're not thinking smart about this, if we're not reinvesting this money in the right places, when we finally do have a downturn, this is going to get very ugly very soon. And there are examples across the world where governments have promised pensions here, promised social welfare there, promised these huge, tremendous projects that they could never afford, or they can never complete on time. And once the economy turns down for that country, it is a economic nightmare for everyone. So I'm not a believer in government spending as being an asset to society. I think that is just completely wrong. Keynesian economics is a new thing within the past 100 years or so, a little over 100 years. Keynesian economics came to light, and with it came massive government expenditures. Before Keynesian economics, the government had to operate on the money it was allotted. It couldn't just keep borrowing money, issuing bonds, raising taxes, all that stuff. This was stuff that progressively increased over time, and now we're in the shape we're in. So this is going to get real interesting really soon. If I were you, my advice, look into personal finance, study some basic economics. You want to be saving your money, putting that cash in assets that are going to continue to grow for you. Dividend, paying assets, those are things that I like to put my money into. I like hard assets as well. I'm not a gold bug, but I do appreciate the fact that there are safe havens in the world, such as gold. You can even put some money in silver if you like. I believe silver is more of a speculative asset, but I do believe also that it's highly undervalued. How can you circumvent this deficit spending? Save your money, put it in assets that you know and trust, put it in safe havens, put it in things that are going to pay you a dividend. That's my advice, because once the economy turns down, trust me, this is going to turn, oh man, let me tell you, even if it's a slight recession we're looking at in the future, let's say we just dip a little bit, the dollar loses a little bit of value, a lot of these pension plans could be on the hook for just complete belly up bankruptcy. All right.